Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and a few weeks ago now, we actually got told that we were getting live events brought to The Sims 4, and the first one was a login reward. Basically, you had like 5 weeks to log in at least one day out of those weeks, and you could receive some free stuff that are now available in base game. I still don't really know how I feel about this event. I do think they could definitely do some cool stuff with this. I think they could add scenarios to like timed events and then you get rewards. The only one that I personally would have felt like I missed out on, and obviously this is because I am fortunate enough to have every pack, and a lot of these items were like stuff that we have already received in other packs. They just kind of got a shiny new texture on them, would be the trait, because a trait like feels as if it's gameplay, and that's the one that I'm most looking forward to actually checking out, because when I read the summary I didn't really understand it, so I kind of want to see how it works in my game. I've also been like away and doing things. I've been like popping in and out of The Sims 4 over the last 5 weeks, so this is quite interesting. I did manage to receive everything, so today we're just kind of gonna go over everything, see everything that I have yet to play with, and talk about these rewards, what I think of them, and just actually what they add to our games. I fully got that wrong in the intro. I've already forgotten how this works. It wasn't just one day that you had to log in. To get these 3 items, you had to log in 3 separate days, then 2 separate days in week 2, 2 separate days in week 3, and then 1 day in week 4. But you actually had a total of 5 weeks to do it. The first reward was a new dartboard. Dartboards were introduced with a get together. Then we got this necklace, which I'm fairly sure is just like 2 separate necklaces that we have in the game that they've then like taken from their other necklaces and then made into this new object. And then we also got a mini fridge and a dustbin recolor. This is the classic dartboard. If you have Get to Work, this is what you are used to seeing. It's kind of more of like a rundown like bar type. I imagine if you go into a pub in the UK, you can find a dartboard like this in a lot of pubs. It's like a bit dinged up. It's got like different pinpricks in it from the darts. And then this was the shiny new one that we got. I will say I've had a look at a couple of the swatches on these just whilst I was in build mode, and loads of these items are all kind of like cohesive together, which is a bit of an odd choice because like this is a dartboard and then this other stuff obviously you're gonna probably like have in a kitchen, so it's a bit weird that the colors match up and then the bar kind of doesn't match up, because you kind of imagine a bar would match up with a dartboard more than these kitchen appliances. I don't know. It's like they cohesively made like the week 1 assets, but then didn't take in account the rest of the assets. Bit of an odd choice in my opinion. If you're used to seeing the dartboard in Get Together, you can play like group games on here, which your numbers will actually go in. And then it lights up to tell you how you did on your throw. If you get a bullseye, it kind of does like a little like light up thing. It's a dartboard. There's not really many interesting things I can say about it. Then we have this mini fridge that was obviously introduced with Discover University. We've had mini fridges since then. We got one in the Spa Day refresh. I can't remember where else we got a mini fridge, but they definitely exist in the game outside of just Discover University. And then this is the new one that we got. And then obviously the nano can, which this one I'm actually quite happy about. I love this base game dustbin. If you don't know what this does, basically when your sim actually like makes a meal, or if they just go and get like a quick drink. So I'll go have her have some like cold cuts. When you have a dirty plate or a dirty glass, you can actually drag them over to this like electro nano can, and depending on how many sims you actually have in your family, so right now we only have 1 sim. Oops, I forgot that I made her a vegetarian for this video. But once you grab that, every single sim counts as like 10 simoleons. So if you have 8 sims, you get 80, I'm fairly sure, off like 1 plate. This new one is exactly the same. It's just a root color, so you do actually get simoleons for this bin. I do wonder if it has the same cooldown. I should probably test it out, because obviously this one has a light. So when you actually drag something into this, it has like a red light for about 5 to 10 seconds, which means that you can't just like spam it like repeatedly, even though there's only like a slight cooldown. Would be quite interesting to see if this one also also has the cooldown. But I am glad that this is the Electro one that actually gives you simoleons, because whilst this one I use so frequently, it was the backbone of my base game Let's Play. Such an easy way to make money, especially if you have like a big Sims family. Really good for like rags to riches or Nightmare Legacy challenges. It does look a little bit ugly, and this is like the only swatch that we have of it. So very, very glad that they actually gave us a brand new swatch. They also just have like a plain black one. There is no like plain silver one, but there are a lot of like wood tones. Again, it matches with the fridge and the dartboard. Boom, drag it over, and you can't do it whilst it's doing its thing. Okay, so it does still seem to have the cooldown on it. So we're gonna pop that down there. There you go. So it does have the same cooldown, it just doesn't have the light to kind of specify the cooldown, which from a player perspective, I feel is a little annoying if you've never really like used this one in base game, if you're not used to the cooldown. So what I mean when I say they've kind of taken two separate necklaces, taken them apart, and then added them back together. It's like Lego. So they took this star, which is like the kind of choker necklace on top from this Realm of Magic one. This actually doesn't have all the exact same swatches, so they have added some new swatches onto it, and then they obviously separated that. Then they took this one that we have from Werewolves, so two occult packs. Yeah, let me be Delulu for a second and pretend that this means that we're getting fairies. Another occult. They're interested in occults, okay? And then we got this little one of them mixed together. This little icon actually shows you that it was part of this like reward. It's like a plumb bob with a star next to it, and it pretty much has like a mix of the swatches and then a couple of new ones. Does have the same old piss gold. I do wish that the gold looked better in The Sims 4. I wish that we had more of like a brushed gold. It's also not overbearing. It doesn't look like a lot of jewelry in The Sims 4 where it's like extremely oversized and just looks like uncomfortable to wear. Week 2, we got given this hairstyle, which is actually just a recolor of a cats and dogs hairstyle that we once had. I mean, again, it's like inoffensive. It's not my favorite hair. I don't think I've probably used this like since cats and dogs. I feel like hairstyles have got a lot better since then, especially like on the detailing, and I just don't think this one looks that great. I'm not really a fan of like the weight in the bottom of it, and I think we just have like better looking hairstyles. This is what it initially looked like. I think the new one actually looks better than the cats and dogs one. I don't know why that is. I just think like the kind of two-tone is a little bit weird on it, and I also think the texture looks worse on this one. At least on the new one, it feels like they tried to like even out the texture a little bit and make it look like a more modern hairstyle, because obviously they are a lot better in The Sims 4 and they have got better for like the last few years. This is the bar that we got in week 2. Now, honestly, I would be kind of disappointed if I had missed out on this one, and that's kind of what I don't like. I know I said I didn't have like too much of opinion, but I do understand that like if you miss out on this stuff, you can't really get it, although I think people have uploaded it into like files. There was a glitch that you could do actually within the game through the tagging system in build and buy mode, but they patched that out. I'm fairly sure people have probably made this available as custom content. Sorry to those of you who are on console who can't download custom content. Could have lived without this little like bar stool bit, like the bar to put your feet on, but I think this is actually quite nice for a home bar. Like, I have grown up with like my grandparents' friends having like bars in their living rooms, and this kind of feels like it could be an at-home bar. I like that it's one tile. I use one tile desks an awful lot. I do obviously think they could have given us like a sleeker modern version as well. This is like quite pub traditional. Obviously you could probably like move these together to get like a double bar, but I do think it's quite nice nice for a home. I imagine now that we have this, they're probably going to give it to us more in like packs. For week 3, we actually got this cushion right here. Now this pillow right here, the perfect pillow, was part of the looks kit. Zarela actually collabed with the Sims team on that kit, but we now have a recolor of basically all the base game swatches, which I do feel makes sense because obviously a lot of people are probably gonna use these with base game stuff. So we have a lot of the colors that you expect. These pillows, honestly, they are a little bit weird, I feel, in the game. They remind me of custom content, and the only reason I say that is because The Sims 4 like has limitations. Obviously you can turn on testing cheats and then put move objects on, and that means you can like freely move these about whilst holding down Alt. It also means that you can make them rise and fall by hitting 9 to lift them up and then 0 to let them go. They do kind of clip a lot. If you don't have them clip, then I mean it's kind of hard not to get them to clip, but if you have it like that, then yeah, it's a nice little kind of accent pillow. But then when a sim actually goes to like sit down on a sofa, or if you have them on a bed, it does just clip into the sim. This is why I personally say it feels like custom content, because they kind of face the repercussions and the constricts of the game itself and like the animation and how Sims root. So I mean, nice for decoration if you want to use them. You can also use them to like fill out beds, make them look more luxurious, which obviously makes sense that the original came in a looks kit. It just feels like it's kind of elevating the design a little bit more and kind of making it your own. But just be wary if you do choose to use them. They are purely decorative. Also in week 3, like I said, the one that probably I would have felt like I missed out on the most if I didn't have access to it, it is the practice makes perfect trait. Now, traits I feel are just a little bit different than objects overall. Like create a sim objects and build and buy mode objects, like yeah, it's nice to have different swatches and like a one tile bar, but it doesn't really change your game that much. I feel like traits offer gameplay, and I know I've seen the discussion, and I've also personally said it, that I think like a scenario or like unlocking new gameplay in a timed event would be fun, but I think something like this where it feels like it can have a change in the way you play your game forever, and some people are just gonna miss out on that. Truly, from a selfish point of view, it's gonna be so annoying when people are like, what's that trait? Like, I don't have that trait in my game. There's gonna be people coming into this game for like years and years after this is released, and if I use this trait and they weren't here for the timed event, obviously they're gonna want to know where it's from. Like, this isn't gonna be available to everyone, and that's gonna get annoying for me to have to be like, oh, well, back in June of 2024 we had this timed event, and if you played that time event you actually got this as one of the rewards. I think it kind of just brings up like more barriers in the community, and I don't particularly like that when there are already like so many like barriers in this game already when it comes to like the amount of money it is possible to spend on this game and the amount of packs that it has. But these sims learn skills faster even if they are a little slower at first. Basically, if you work on one singular like group of traits, so traits are grouped into kind of like logic building stuff, then you have like the athletic side of things like fitness. I've honestly never really looked into the different types of stuff, but obviously like using the telescope and working on your logic skill is logic skills. Then you have the athleticism of like a football from Discover University and the treadmill. Then you have the more creative tasks of like music and painting. Then you kind of have the like charisma based stuff, and you can kind of see them based off what mood you're in. So if you're in like a confident moodlet, if you actually work on your charisma or your like humor, I know I'm getting all the names wrong, but you know what I mean. You kind of know what I'm getting at. Then when you're working on it, you get a buff to that skill. Like right now, she's feeling focused. Obviously, you can see being focused helps with chess. As you actually work on something, if you have the right emotion for it, you can see the purple surrounding it. Purple means focus. Inspired is like a light blue. Athletic, energized is yellow. Then for this, charisma is also like a slightly darker blue. From my understanding, if your sim is doing like loads of different skills, their skills will actually go up at a slower rate, which is quite fun because it does feel, especially early on in the skills, it's quite easy to get up skills. Like they do go up at quite an accelerated rate. Right now, she has the moodlet of Eloise is on a roll and will be more efficient at mental skills. So she works on that group slightly faster right now because she's feeling like she's fully focused on it. Whereas if you're doing like loads of different skills and kind of jumping around, it's going to go up at a slower rate. The more she actually works on only logic, so if she's pouring everything into these focused like group skills, that means that they're going to continue to go up at an accelerated rate. It was Rex that had the kind of deep dive into how this works. Clarification on the new trait, practice makes perfect. It does not reward your sims, in fact, it punishes them, which I like. This makes the game harder if you're like actively kind of trying to make it a little bit harder. Even if you're not, you're probably working on like multiple skill sets. And I like that it kind of punishes you for that. However, it works in a way that practicing skills in a category helps. By default, your sims learn all skills at 50% speed, but by practicing a single category, creative, social, physical, and mental. So mental is purple, physical is like kind of that energized state. They're like physical, sporty, athletic type skills. Social is like charisma and comedy. And then creative is like painting, drawing. But if they do those single categories continuously, they can up the speed to 90%, 130, 160, and even a whopping 180%. So if you only focus on those logic-based skills, you can get your sims learning up to 180% faster than they usually do. However, once they stop practicing, this buff starts to decay. Their practice will be checked daily if no bugs occur, so they need to practice each category every day and will eventually drop back to 50%. So it's kind of a challenging trait other than a reward one. I personally do usually focus on like a number of different skills. Like I don't like having my sim just kind of focus on one specific skill set because I can kind of get bored doing that with my sims, but it's kind of cool that now like maybe having this trait and then having them work on those numerous different skills is going to make the game harder for me. If you're looking for this trait within your game, it's under emotional. I actually just quickly went to check if kids have this available to them. They do, actually. I didn't think they did. I was about to say I unfortunately can't see it, but they do have it available, which I think is quite interesting because I think it's easier to kind of see those skills in children because obviously they kind of only have like mental, fitness, social, and the other one. I do feel like there's one downside to practice makes perfect, and that's the fact that I've had her pretty much been working on like logic skills, and while she still keeps getting the like momentum moodlet, I did think that actually as your skill increased and like obviously you got more and more of that gain, I'm fairly sure it's probably gone up to 90% from the 50% right now because she has been focused and it's been one day. I would kind of like the game to explain that maybe with a different head nod of like a moodlet, because I feel like the momentum just feels like the very beginning, which makes it just think that you've got like that 90% or like 50% base level and it hasn't actually like moved any. So therefore, how am I as a player meant to know unless I'm like watching how quickly and like just doing constant comparisons of her like working on other skills. But then if I have her work on other skills, it means that that's going to go back down and then I'm not going to see the comparison. You know what I mean? So I kind of just wish that it had like a different, like more severe, maybe like language to it. Right now, she's not actually got the buff from feeling like all these focus moodlets because the fine one is taking over, but it still feels like it's going up pretty much at the same rate, which is why I am led to believe that she's got some sort of a buff on this now. I just think that that should be noted. I think that the percentage buff, even if they don't give us like the exact exact numbers and like what's happening, like the working behind the scenes. They should at least give the player like a little head nod to know what's going on and why this trait is affecting it. Because I wouldn't have known if I hadn't like read up on all of that. Moving on to week 4, we actually got an athletic fit, which I mean, I'm rarely ever going to use. It's kind of just this like tracksuit bottoms and hoodie. It's an all-in-one outfit. This, I'm fairly sure, is a hoodie that we already have available for masculine sims. I can't really remember what pack it came with, but we did get it for children and above. This is gonna test my knowledge. I'm gonna maybe say fitness stuff or parenthood for the hoodie, but let's check it out. Let's see if I can find it. The original. Oh, it was Discover University. My bad. I don't like it. I mean, I am not fussed about having this in my game. I know I am literally like never ever gonna use it. I never really use that Discover Uni hoodie anyway. I do talk about how much I love Discover University as a creator sim. That is not an asset that I enjoy from Discover University. I think there are much better assets. And then also for the final week, we got this vending machine, which is kind of just a reskin of this one that we got, I think maybe from Snowy Escape or High School Years. It was High School Years. Obviously, again, this kind of matches the dartboard and the kitchen appliances. It comes in all the same swatches, which now means that Death by Vending Machine is part of base game. I mean, technically it was part of base game code anyway, because they first introduced vending machines with Snowy Escape, but obviously since then we've had it in like High School Years, and vending machines have been part of like the game's coding for a while, and the fact that they put it in multiple packs meant that it had to be in base game anyway, so they've just kind of given us a base game version of a vending machine. I also have all packs, so if you're maybe seeing this and you don't have like all of these available, that would probably be why. So apparently you can get chicken nuggets, edamame, garden salad, ham and cheese sandwich, a slice of cake, and yogurt melts, which is a very weird combination, I must add. I love how they put a drink on here, but you can't actually get any drinks from it. The items have been purchased and can be found in her inventory. As you can see, she's got the yogurt melts. I too love a yogurt melt. You can purchase like multiple different items if you want to. Damn, I don't know if they like nerfed the chances of items getting stuck now that this is in base game. But she has got pretty much everything that she's purchased, and I've made quite a lot of purchases. Usually if something gets stuck, you can choose to then shake it, and then you either get the chance of receiving that item, it just kind of goes into your inventory like usual, or it can actually fall on top of your sim and then they get a little moodlet. And then if you do it a second time whilst you still have that moodlet and it crushes you again, then you can pass away by vending machine. Something finally got stuck. Waits for the vending machine to retrieve her purchased item. She comes to a terrible realization: they're stuck. She will not be receiving her purchase today unless she shakes it. She also got this moodlet, ate my money. Mom's better have my money. And is it gonna fall on her? Ooh, there seems to be a little bit of a glitch going on with this. Or maybe it's just telling me that it's stuck. She unfortunately successfully managed to be proven victorious against her foe, the stingy vending machine. The formerly stuck items can now be found in her inventory. Maybe now the vending machine can sit and think about what it did. But there we have it. There's an overview of all the items that we got, how they work, like what they are similar to what we already have within the game already. Like I said, I definitely think the one tile bar and the new trait are my personal favorites. I always think we need a little bit more consequence and a little bit more of a challenge in The Sims 4. Sometimes it feels far too easy. Obviously, I know that trait can go the other way and it can make it feel a lot easier, but you kind of have to put in the effort and not get bored with the different types of skills for that to happen. But definitely let me know what you think about this. The login reward in general as well. I know a lot of people have been giving me their thoughts. Like I said, I'm kind of just like in the middle with it. So I like hearing people's feedback on this just to see like how people feel, like if they're strongly for it or strongly against it. I do think it sucks for those people who who weren't able to get their hands on it. I know that there probably are other ways around that, but it is unfortunate for those who missed it, so I do apologize for that, and I do know how annoying that can feel. But thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was a nice little roundup of like everything that we got. I appreciate you all so much for tuning in, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.